What's up, guys? Andrew Cooper here. It is the biggest draft weekend of the year, early September. You took all your hometown drafts, you took all your big money drafts, you pushed them all to this weekend or beyond because we wanted to have as much information as possible. Make sure cut downs are done, make sure the rosters are set. Now we're here. It's your most important drafts, and I want to give you the most important tip that I have to finishing out the hardest part of the draft, which is the end of the draft. And what this tip revolves around is benches. How big your bench is. It determines who you're taking, who you're not taking, who makes sense for your format, right? And the concept I like to use is lottery tickets versus scratch tickets. A lottery ticket is a player that has massive upside, but you might need to wait a little bit on that guy for various reasons, right? Maybe he's coming back from injury, or maybe it's a rookie who takes a while to develop, or maybe it's a handcuff that only blows up if someone gets hurt. These guys are like lottery tickets, whereas you need to wait for the numbers to find out if you won. You got to wait and see what happens. That's what a lotto ticket is to me. The other option is a scratch ticket, which basically you have certain situations where we're going to get answers week one. It's muddy, and right away we'll get an answer. You can find out if you're going to cut this guy or keep this guy. For instance, let's say the Jaguars offense. We don't know who's going to be the top target. Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. We have no idea. Week one, we're going to get some answers. And if you have a shallow bench, then you can right away cut that guy and bring in somebody off waivers. That is huge, right? So in shallow bench leagues, you want scratch tickets. When you have big benches, when you have like 7 or 8 spots, you can afford to hold on to some lottery tickets. Last year, a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't do much until week 12, so you had to hold him for a long time. If you had shallow benches, you couldn't do that. If you had deep benches, you could. So let me get into some examples from this year of guys that fit both categories at wide receiver, running back, and tight end. So for starters, let's look at wide receiver. And a great lottery ticket is Jameson Williams. This is a guy who was the best wide receiver in college. The Lions traded up to draft him in the first round, so they believe in the talent. The problem is he tore his ACL late in the year. He's going to start the season on the PUP list, physically unable to perform, meaning he's going to miss a minimum of 4 weeks. You have to wait to see what happens. The upside is there. I mean, the team is pretty open for targets. He's a huge talent. And we've seen guys in the past like Odell Beckham Jr. come out, have a hamstring early, miss a couple games, and then blow up and be a league winner. So that's an example of a lottery ticket that you can take if you have IR spots or if you have deep benches. Now, if you have shallow benches and you're just looking for guys that can help you right away, an example would be a guy like Julio Jones, right? He's joining up with Tom Brady. We know he's had injury issues in the past, but with Chris Godwin out, coming in slow, with Russell Gage having missed so much time, Julio Jones could be in a spot to contribute right away, could even crack your lineup right away. Now, on the flip side, if he's not doing anything early, it's not going to get any better when Chris Godwin comes back or when Russell Gage comes back, but that's fine with us. We need those bench spots anyway. They're super valuable. So you take that player. If he does something, great, throw him in the lineup. If he doesn't do anything, you drop him right away for the hot waiver pickup. In a league like that, there's going to be guys all over waivers, running backs, wide receivers. So shallow bench leagues, you want guys where we get answers right away like that. An example for running back. If you look at a lottery ticket, there's one classic example, Alexander Mattison. This is a player who this year fits it in multiple ways. Typically, he's a lottery ticket in that he's been the handcuff for Dalvin Cook, a player who's been hurt every single year. And when Dalvin goes down, Mattison becomes a running back one, an RB1. So basically, you're sitting there waiting for the numbers to come in the form of an injury. When they do, you have a top running back. Now, this year, there's an added curl because we're hearing that Alexander Mattison might be on the trade block. So it could also be a situation where you draft this guy, hoping he gets traded. Maybe another running back gets hurt early in the season, he gets moved, and now you have another path to an RB1. So this guy has 2 paths to be a lottery ticket, but to start the season, he has no value. He has no standalone value. He almost never has. So he's a guy that quintessential lottery ticket that you sit there, hold him, you can't start him, but if something happens, he can go right in your lineup, right? An example of the flip side, the scratch ticket would be a guy like Ameer Abdullah. We know that Josh McDaniels is coming over from New England, where they ran the Erhardt-Perkins system for 20 years now. They've never had a running back that had both 200 carries and 35 receptions, not a high bar on either end because it's a split backfield, right? They use on rundowns, they've used guys like Damian Harris, Sony Michel, before that, LeGarrette Blount. On pass downs, they've used guys like James White, Rex Burkhead, going all the way back to Kevin Falk. It's split down the middle. So Josh Jacobs is here, assuming that McDaniels brings that offense over, and we assume he does because McDaniels himself was complaining during joint training camp with the Patriots that they knew the plays, which means he's running the same plays, right? So we can assume Josh Jacobs is probably going to be in that early down role, and that means that the James White passing down role is open. They cut Kenyon Drake. Ameer Abdullah is a guy who could slide into that role. And last year, James White, in the first 2 games before he got hurt, he caught 6 passes in both games. In full PPR, if you're catching 4, 5, 6 passes, you're interesting. That's an interesting player for that format. So Ameer Abdullah is a guy that you look for. It could come out and maybe they're using Josh Jacobs as a full-time guy, or maybe Ameer Abdullah's role isn't that big. You just cut him. That's the beauty of the scratch ticket. Now, last position I want to hit on, tight end, my specialty. You got a couple guys that fit both molds, right? One, for a lottery ticket, Logan Thomas, right? This is a guy that's finished as a tight end 3 or 4, depending on your format in 2020. Last year, he was playing 100% of the snaps in the first 3 games, literally every snap over that period, right? The upside is big for this guy, but he tore his ACL at the end of last year on a cheap shot. Now he's activated off the PUP list, so you can't really put him on the IR, but we don't know his usage. You can't start him week 1. You might have to wait a little bit for him to get ramped up. That's what makes him a lottery ticket. You can't trust him right away. You want to hold him to see what it looks like when he's ramped all the way back up. But you need a bench spot to hold him on, and you need another tight end to start early. That's what makes him a lottery ticket, a guy that you can only really stash if you have the bench spots, because he might not even be IR eligible the way that Jameson Williams is. Now, an example of a scratch ticket would be someone like Brevin Jordan from the Texans, right? This guy, he was a rookie last year, flashed a little bit, but this year he's supposed to take a bigger role. We know Brandon Cooks is probably going to be the top target on the team. After that, we don't know who's going to be 2, and we know that being a top 2 target is huge for the upside of tight ends. Maybe Nico Collins could be the second target. We like him, the wide receiver, but after that, they don't have much, right? So Brevin Jordan right away could be getting a good snap share. We know that he ran about 80% of the routes this preseason when the starters were in, which is a good sign. On the flip side, we've heard them say Farrell Brown is the starter. And this is a guy who's more of a blocking tight end, not super exciting for fantasy football, but he could be taking the snaps away from Brevin Jordan, and that makes neither of them exciting. So we're going to find out early on in the year how involved Brevin Jordan is. If he's super involved, great. You hit on a guy. If he isn't super involved, then that's the guy you drop. Grab another tight end or grab another player off waivers, on to the next one. These concepts are huge, and I see people mess it up time and time again where they, go out and draft a bunch of players that they have to drop right away. It's just a waste of draft picks. It's a waste of your time. So make sure you know your format, get ready for this league, know what guys are, good handcuffs, what guys are good scratch tickets, good lottery tickets, and let's win some leagues. All right, guys. Good talking to you. I'll talk to you next week.